How's it going, my fellow inquisitorial agents? My name is Dagan, and welcome back to the grimdark future, the 41st millennium. And today, I have another Psyker build video for you. And this is my Soul-Shatter Psyker Brain Rupture build. Now, this is a super fun build that I've been running recently in Orc Damnations and regular Damnations and finding a ton of success. It did definitely teach me a lot of things, and I had to really learn my peril management because this build generates a lot of peril with the Trauma Force staff, but you are going to be taking out groups of enemies really quickly and having a ton of fun doing it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our melee weapon of choice, which is going to be the Mark IV Dueling Sword, which is really good at close range, taking out hordes, and even doing a ton of damage to elites and specialists, and one-shotting maniacs and things like that. So as far as perks goes, I picked up 5% melee critical hit chance, which is always good, and then 25% damage on maniacs so that I can one-shot those muties. As far as blessings go, I have Shred for, again, bonus critical hit chance, super nice, and then Uncanny Strike, 100% pick up Uncanny Strike to add that 24% rending debuff on enemies and just do more damage to the weak spot. And then as far as stats go, the Dueling Sword does not really have a dump stat, so try to get them as high as possible. This roll is almost maxed out, so this is a really good one. Try to get one similar to this. If I had to say, if I was going to sacrifice any of them, I would say my penetration could be the lowest out of all of the rest of them. Try to keep them as high as possible. If you have Uncanny Strike 4, you can be okay with your penetration being lower. All right. Now let's look at our ranged weapon of choice, which is the Trauma Force Staff. So the Trauma Force Staff is really interesting because you can do this AoE charged attack, and as well as you've got these single blaze bolt projectile shot that you can do. But for perks, you want mine rolled the 20% carapace armor enemies. You can do the 25%. You could also do elite damage. You could also do flak armor, whatever you prefer out of those three, I would recommend. And then that second perk, you can take whatever you like. I picked up critical strike chance because we are running Blazing Spirit on this particular staff. So as far as blessings go, you 100% want Rending Shockwave to get that stacks of brittleness. That's a nice debuff on enemies, and your teammates can benefit from that too. And then I'm running Blazing Spirit to, again, add the Soul Blaze effect on enemies to do more damage and to clear out hordes very quickly. And it pairs really nicely with the talent tree. As far as perks go, stats go, you're looking at damage, blast radius, charge rate, and warp resistance as being your most important, these first four. You definitely don't want blast radius to go below 70%. Try to keep that as high as possible. And if you can get warp resistance to 80%, that would help you out tremendously with the peril management, because this staff generates a ton of peril. And with 80% warp resistance, you can actually do 5 fully charged attacks from 0% peril. And that will bring you to about 98% peril. And I can show you that a little later. So you can do 5 fully charged attacks. This one's at 75% warp resistance, so I can do 4.5 fully charged attacks. So again, I'll show that here in a little bit, but these are your 4 most important perks, and then you can make Quell Speed your dump stat, but 100% go for Rending Shockwave, and then that second blessing can be whatever you prefer, but this particular build, I'm running Blazing Spirit. I would also recommend Warp Flurry as another option. All right, now let's look at our Curios. I've got toughness, combat ability regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. 100% always take damage resistance gunners. It's so good. And then combat ability regeneration is also really good. Specifically for this build, you are going to want combat ability regeneration on all 3 Curios. I'll show you I am running a health Curio. Again, with combat ability regeneration and damage resistance gunners. And my other toughness one, again, toughness We got toughness, and then combat ability regeneration gunners. And this one I put toughness regeneration speed, which is also really helpful. But all right, now let's go ahead and look at our talent tree. So this is a Brain Rupture build. So we are rocking good old fashioned Brain Rupture. But as far as our toughness regeneration, we are looking at warp expenditure, quietude, and warp soul stealer, I believe it's called. Yeah, soul stealer. And then perilous combustion for that soul blaze to nearby enemies when you kill a specialist or elite. And then we've got, again, brain rupture, picking up kinetic flare, kinetic resonance, and then going down, picking up wildfire so that we can continue to, spread soul blaze when we kill an enemy with soul blaze. So really good perk for this particular build. Psychonetics aura to continue to decrease our combat ability cooldown. Seer's presence for, again, that 10% cooldown on our combat abilities for us and allies. One with the warp for that toughness damage reduction, super powerful. And then we are running Venting Shriek with Becoming Eruption and Creeping Flames to spread that Soul Blaze again. So this build, you are setting enemies on fire and absolutely erupting the ground with your Trauma Force Staff. And again, even with the Trauma Force Staff with Blazing Spirit, proccing that Soul Blaze. We are going to go down the left path to pick up Solidity and Puppet Master for that Coherency Aura bonus. We are going to go down the middle tree, pick up Warp Rider, and go down for Empowered Psionics to boost that Brain Rupture damage and charge rate, picking up Overpowering Souls to continually refresh our Empowered Psionics, and then charged up to hold 3 stacks, which is really nice when you need to take out a big elite. And then we're going to pick up that critical chance boost for that extra 5% critical chance. So that's the talent tree. Now, what are we doing with this build? So the Trauma Force Staff, when you fully charge it, does this AoE attack. And it's really good at knocking enemies to the ground and taking out a little group. And when you do a crit, you proc that Soul Blaze because of Blazing Spirit, which is nice as well. And if they die to that Blazing Spirit, Creeping Flames is going to proc and continue to spread that Soul Blaze. But whenever you have max charge, just go ahead and proc your Venting Shriek and continue to deal damage. You can also go in, finish off and clean up enemies with the Dueling Sword just like that. Dueling Sword is really nice because you're moving fast and you're going to do a ton of damage, taking out enemies super quickly. Fucking Perilous Combustion. Hitting Kinetic Flare on the Trauma Force Staff is really nice, and you're debuffing enemies whenever they get hit with the Trauma Force Staff, which is really nice as well. And the Trauma Force Staff is just really good at controlling the battlefield. You can just knock enemies to the ground. If you need to go in, you can clean them up. And then for the really big guys, we've got that Empowered Psionics with the Brain Rupture and continuously recycling it when we kill elites, which is really helpful and really powerful. And just take out these big guys. And if you're about to lose yourself, pop your Venting Shriek. You should have it back really quickly. And you just use your Dueling Sword to mop up hordes if necessary as well, if your peril is really high. So that's the build, guys. I do want to show a quick alteration you can do if you want. If you're really into running Blaze Force Swords on the Psyker, I don't blame you. This build can be ran with 1-2, and I recommend rocking the Deimos because the Deimos does really great single target damage. And as you can see, the light attack combo is a strike down to assassin, so really nice for single target enemies. And then the heavy attack are double strike downs, so again, really good for single target damage. So you can really mess up an elite with this sword. And this is what I'm running on mine. I definitely recommend Deflector for that bonus block, so that way you can block gunners and you can effectively block melee combatants. So really good there. Deflector's really good for that next blessing. Whatever you want, you can run if you want to run something that's boosting crit or your overall damage. Mine has repost, so I just left it, and this sword runs just fine. For this sword, as far as stats go, you definitely want your damage, your finesse, and first target as high as possible. Those directly will affect how much damage you deal. And then I would say mobility as high as possible, and you can let your warp resistance be lower for this sword. But yeah. And on the talent tree, if you find that you're really good at your peril management and you do not need Seer's Presence, you can rock Kinetic Presence for that extra 5% elite damage, which will be nice with your Deimos Force Sword as well. You can go in and do really nice damage with the Deimos Force Sword, and you can also pull out Trauma First Staff as needed, and then go in and finish off an enemy. Just like that, and prop your venting streak. This is another way you can run this build. But I've really been enjoying this setup just so that I have my venting streak as high as much as possible. And then running the dueling sword because you're moving much faster with it, and you're able to take out single targets really easily and hordes with it really easily as well. So I really just want to show quickly why you want to go for that 80% warp resistance. So this is the Blazing Spirit Trauma First Staff, which at 75%. With 0% peril as recharge, it's 2 attacks, 3 attacks, 4 attacks, and about 4.5 attacks with this staff. But I have another one down here that has 80% warp resistance, and at 0% peril, I can do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're at 97% peril. So 80% warp resistance is really good. So I would definitely try to go for as high as possible on that warp resistance. Also, as a recommendation, Warp Flurry is really good. You get that really fast charge rate. It's another good choice aside from Blazing Spirit or Warp Nexus. You can run Warp Flurry. So that's the build, guys. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. And if you have any suggestions, let me know as well. I'd be happy to try them out and get your thoughts on it. I've been actually really enjoying this build and running Brain Rupture. It's pretty fun to just pop heads, and as well as the Trauma Force staff, just being able to take out a group of enemies super quickly. And then again, Soul Blaze, one of my favorite perks on the Psyker, is just such a nice thing to be able to engulf enemies in flames. But I really enjoyed this build, and I know you guys will too. So let me know what you guys think. And I will see y'all when we return to the grim dark future of the 41st millennium in the next video. Bye, guys.